All right, here we go. So, what mistakes are people making today? Really simple ones like spending too much time on websites, not seeing results, spending too much money, working on the wrong things on their website, spending advertising dollars with no clear return on investment tracking. A lot of people I've met in the past also, oh, I don't need a website. Our industry's a bit different and whatnot. I don't really buy it, to be honest. I think everyone can benefit from an online business card of a website. And then, of course, people that don't spend any time or money on marketing are going to struggle. People who don't upskill, up level their skills, and people who hire the wrong type of online marketers are going to run into issues. So those are some of the things here. So this slide is kind of a mindset slide. Where are we on the mindset? So I think we're at a position where people just want to learn, how do I do it? How do I optimize a business website? So that's going to be the goal here to go through. I threw this slide in just to say that a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about is going to be a little bit more complex than some people are comfortable with. But just don't worry about that. Again, I'm going to send all these slides to you. I'm going to send you a recording of this webinar. So really just sit back and sort of just pick up what you can. You don't have to do the whole staircase. Just take a couple steps. If there's one thing you guys want to write down, it's just a couple of action items you can execute in the next 30 days or so. So I also have a webinar worksheet that should be available. It was in the original registration email. If you're interested in, I'll see if I can just find that link for you there. Sorry, I should have had this. Actually, I think, just give me 2 seconds here. Here we go. And it should be down here somewhere. Webinar worksheet. Here we go. So I'll paste that in the chat window if I can figure that out. Manage participants. Looks like I got some learning to do here. It's going to be hard. Maybe I'll just quickly do a bit.ly Google shortener URL, and then you guys can write it down. Just give me 2 seconds to do that. Where is it? Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Just give me 2 seconds here. I'll just use bit.ly because that comes up quicker. Oh, everybody wants to pay for shortening URLs here. Wow, I thought Google's taking theirs offline. Sorry, guys. Google shortener URL. Here we go. Oh, they've got rid of it. Anyway, I'm going to have to send you the worksheet, but you don't really need the worksheet right now. Just write down a few action items that you'll get done in the last 30 days. That'll be the goal here. Really, the worksheet just had, a bunch of action items and a deadline. So who am I? Really quickly, I'm basically a software developer. I started a company a few years ago, Red Maple Media. I've built websites for UVic. I went to UBC originally, Microsoft certified, Oracle certifications. Basically a lot of techie stuff and a lot of business analysis and project management. So anyway, enough about that. You can go look me up on LinkedIn if you want. So here's probably my favorite slide of the whole presentation. It's all the different steps that you need to think about when you have a business website. So you basically have your website, and that has functional and non-functional elements to it. So functional are things like, you can sign up for a newsletter and give your email, whereas non-functional requirements are the website better load really quickly and be easy to use and things like that. So the different steps that I always talk about are retention, acquisition, engagement, virality, conversion, and monetization. So retention is where I always start, which is there's no point buying expensive traffic or spending a lot of time on SEO and whatnot if you don't have a website that retains people when they arrive. And so a quick way to measure that is if you install something like Google Analytics onto your website, and you see a high bounce rate, it means people are coming and leaving quickly. And so you really want to have a website that holds people and retains them for a longer period of time than your competitors. So assuming you have a website that has a high retention, and we'll get into that in a minute, you can start thinking about acquisition. Like how can I acquire customers or traffic or prospects for a reasonable cost? So over time, you should be able to look at how much you're spending acquiring customers versus how much those, on average, customers are paying you. So of course, the timeline you measure that is very important. So a lot of people will create ads and they'll just look for 30 days on a return on investment. But if they actually looked at 90 days, they might actually realize those ads are better than they think. Engagement is how engaged are your visitors to your website. So you can install, again, from Google Analytics, I'll just use that as an example. There's many other analytics programs, but you can install custom tags or event tracking on all the buttons and all the downloads of your lead magnet brochures or whatnot. So you can really measure engagement. Are people watching your videos? Are they watching the videos all the way through? Are they dropping off halfway? Are they downloading all your free materials from your resource center, etc.? So measuring engagement is something that's important. Virality is something where how shareable is your content? So, some of the things that I'll get to is, if you have a blog on your website, at the bottom or middle of each post, you might consider having a newsletter sign up box or something like that. With virality, you want to have share buttons nearby. So when you have a customer that's really buzzing about your brand and your product and your services, that's the time that you want to offer them virality, shareable buttons, so they can go out, create testimonials, share those. So that's a good time to really capture a lot of their making stuff shareable, basically. Conversion is the next bucket, which is it's all well and dandy having a lot of traffic to your website. Hopefully it's very relevant traffic, but you really want to kind of convert that. And so you need to have conversion goals and a conversion funnel, which I'll get to in a minute. And then if you maybe convert somebody for a small ticket item, monetization is about sort of cross-selling and upselling and really trying to generate a higher lifetime value, a LTV, from your customers, right? So, some of the stuff I'm going to talk about in a minute is the sort of automation of an email campaign and autoresponders and whatnot. And one of the big points I always try and drive home is that type of work and that type of automation shouldn't stop when someone becomes a customer to you. You should have the exact same thing inside your customer domain as well, where you're touching base with them. How are they doing? Do they want to maybe share some information to their network? So you're looking at sort of marketing automation to bring people to be a customer, and then sort of customer care automation is something that I'm a big fan of as well. So really quickly, non-functional requirements. So, if you're going to have a website, just make sure you have really good hosting. I'm going to show you in a minute how you can test that. Make sure that everything's clean and simple and usable. Make sure that your website's secure. I can show you quickly how to make sure that's true. If you get hacked, there's a lot of bad things that can happen. Portability is really about, does it look good on all devices? Is it good for tablets? Is it good for phones? As we all know nowadays, a lot of traffic is on mobile phones. People are buying and signing up. So your website better look good on small devices as well as desktops. So really the quick lesson here is make sure you have really solid hosting. Make sure that your website's been optimized, which I'll get to in a minute, so that you just don't have to worry about what we call non-functional requirements. You've got a fast-loading website. It's simple and usable and looks good on all platforms. Just a quick example, if this is a car here. It's a car. It goes forwards, it goes backwards, it turns, it has headlights and windows, but the non-functional requirements are pretty weak on it, as you can imagine. So again, You can have all the functionality in the world, but if your non-functional requirements are weak, your conversions will be weak too. And just a quick note, Google penalizes websites that take more than 3 seconds to load. And I'm going to show you how to check your website to make sure that it's loading quickly. Not just at home where you are or at your business. For all you know, that website might have been cached and just loading directly off your computer. So we really want to know that, is my website loading fast in my target market? So that could be for people who sell into America. Is it loading fast in Seattle? Is it loading fast in San Francisco? How do we do that? How do we test that? So again, really quickly, non-functional requirements, you need to kind of make sure those are good. So some of the tools back in the day that I used to use are BrowserStack and Web Page Test. These are products that, Web Page Test gives you a report on how well your website is performing non-functionally. And BrowserStack kind of shows you your website as opened in many different versions of browsers and OSs, operating systems, and whatnot. So recently I've started using a product called GTmetrix. So you can put in your website, your business website, and it gives you some information on the sort of areas that you need to work on, right? So I can get to these in a minute, but browser caching. So if you're using a WordPress website, for example, or Drupal or something like that, there are plugins that you can get that provide sort of turnkey caching. Caching really just means that where possible, items from your website are loaded from a cache, a separate area that's a lot quicker to load to your customers. This report will also show you, other areas on your website that you can optimize. Now, if you're not a techie, some of this might be confusing, but at least if you go over here and do download report once you've done your own, at least you can go to your web developer and say, look, I can see what's wrong with my site in terms of non-functional requirements, page load speed and whatnot. I can see it's taking more than 3 seconds to load. Can you go work on some of these things? And you can print out this report and give it to them, and they should be able to do that for you. The BrowserStack product is one that shows you your website in many different browsers, because browsers behave differently, and it might not look perfect in Opera or IE11 or something like that. So it's just a really quick way to choose an operating system and choose a browser, and it provides some screenshots of your website. So really quickly, non-functional requirements, get your website on better hosting so it's fast, it's loading under 3 seconds. Make sure that whenever you're at a friend's house, you get them to pop out their phone and load your website so you can just see it on a different number of phones: Android phone, Apple phone, Android tablet, iPad, a Mac with Chrome. As much as possible, just check your website out on different platforms. There's some tools that you can go online, free security scan, same like GTmetrix, except it's a security scan. Again, if you have any questions, just email info@digitaldesks.ca and we'll get some answers for you. So one of them might be, what site security scan product do you recommend? And then make sure your site's simple and you've thought a little bit about where the information is. Is the information pertinent to your prospects? Have you told a story that's compelling? Things like that, right? So now I'm going to quickly go on to website retention. So website retention is about reducing visitor defections, right? So you want to make sure that when people come to your website, there's lots of things they can do and engage with so that they stick around. So you need to provide pertinent, relevant information to your target market. So the way to define your target market is what we do is we use personas, which I'm going to get to in a minute, which is you just basically get a piece of paper and you draw a person on it and you start drawing little bubbles around it about typically, on average, what are these target prospects like? Are they of a certain age group? Are they a certain gender? Do they live in a certain region? Things like this, right? We'll get to that in a minute. So just a quick visual here about retention. It's one of the most important steps, I believe, which is traffic comes in the top of the bucket, and if you have a leaky website or a website that doesn't provide engagement and doesn't retain, then your traffic, and sometimes your traffic's very expensive, will just seep out of your website. These different holes or different pages, people get bored on those pages and they click off somewhere else. So it's a good visual reminder to fix your retention before you do anything else. So we have a little graph here, different metrics you can use. So again, I recommend beginners just start with Google Analytics. Over the years, it's got a bit more simple, I would say, in some regards. So we can get into some different metrics. Of course, retention isn't just about websites. It's also about your brand and your customer service. So just keep that in mind. How do you ensure good customer service? Make sure you listen to people. And so, my company, Red Maple Media, we send out a client satisfaction survey, and we just have some questions once a year. Make sure everyone's happy. If you want to write down one thing, NPS, Net Promoter Score. Nowadays, we kind of just move towards that. So a lot of people don't like filling out a large questionnaire. So you can actually just have one question, which is how likely are you to recommend company X to your network? And you have a scale of 1 to 10. Anyway, a great place to read about Net Promoter Score is on Wikipedia, so you can go check that out. So just really quick here, returning visitors versus new visitors. So which of these is a better scene? We like to see lots of new visitors, especially if you have good retention. So the left one with the more new. I'm going to quickly skip over these because we're definitely a little bit behind schedule here, even though I'm moving quick. But again, Google Analytics, new versus returning. So it's definitely worth getting someone to put some analytics on your website. Bounce rate, again, is showing you how good retention is. Are people coming to your website and staying for a long time or a short time? So those are some of the things. So another thing I'm going to get into in a minute is, the idea of social logins. So a social login is when you come to a website and it says login with Facebook or login with Google, or they even have login with Amazon and whatnot. Excuse me. And so I really like the ability to do that. It's very quick. It's often just pressing a couple buttons. And now you have some information where you can, you can personalize your messaging. I forget, I think I got this in the email probably, but it really jumped out at me because I had my name in it. So just think about, where possible, personalizing your marketing efforts to include people's name and whatnot. So one of the things that I used to do is build a big website with lots of different pages and a resource center and a map of where we are and all these different pages. And the reality is that nowadays we really are slimming down our hierarchy, our website hierarchy or sitemap. And some of the reasons we've started doing that, there's a product out there called ClickFunnels that builds basically on-demand landing pages. A local Victoria company, Red Brick, just purchased one of my favorites called Lead Pages. So you can definitely check out Lead Pages if you want some good ideas for your landing pages. But basically a landing page is a single page website. And the beauty of that is that, and let me just back up a second. It could be the entire website is just single page, or you could have like I said before, a website that's maybe got lots of different pages, but it also includes some hidden landing pages that only your advertising point at. The beauty of a landing page is that it has very little places to click away from. So it's just a single page with a single message that's very compelling. And you either have to basically close the browser window or sign up to get to the next area. There's no menu to other parts of the website and whatnot. So I find nowadays that landing pages and websites that look like landing pages are very powerful because you can drive a lot of traffic to them and people either sign up or they bounce. And you can have different landing pages and do A/B testing and whatnot. And so anyway, just something to consider. Look at your website. Are all the pages on it necessary? Can you slim it down a little bit? Can you maybe consider using some landing pages? So a lot. Again, I am going fast here, but if you just write down some of these key terms, you can look them up later. Wikipedia has a lot of this stuff. For landing pages, check out the free template library from Lead Pages is a good one. Go learn about ClickFunnels. I don't necessarily recommend them. They might be good. I haven't actually used them, but we usually just kind of build landing pages using WordPress or Drupal or something like that. So this was the original landing page that I had for the webinar when it was pre-recorded and whatnot. So this was actually a Lead Pages one. So this is actually quite a good example. The sign up button's very, very prominent. It's at the top as well as the bottom of the page. I had this free webinar with a countdown clock. It had virality, ways people could share. It had all the information and whatnot. So what have I done here? I put a link here just to open up something here. So this is just another example of a landing page, right? So lots of information, a sign up form, a call to action, some more information. A lot of people have a scroll mouse nowadays. So this is just a template and some video and whatnot and a call to action. But you'll notice there's no way to click off this. The only way that I can get away is either sign up or close the window. So that was just an example there of a sort of more modern landing page. It looks like I included another one here. So again, call to action, single page, nowhere to go except sign up. Very powerful. Bottom of my old one, it had a big button again, and it had some social proof at the bottom. So, social proof is when someone else is telling your prospects how great your business is. So here they had a Facebook comment plugin that you could put at the bottom of your landing page, and as people sign up, they put little comments and they would appear here. So that was kind of neat. So retention metrics, again, I'm going to send you all these slides. So if I go too quickly, don't worry, you can take your time and read through these. I'll also, on the live streams, I'll post a link to them or something like that. So not a lot of time to get into this, but some retention metrics. Again, you can type into Google retention metrics and kind of just pick off one or two and start with that, right? So your action items, if you haven't done it already, is to install, number one, some sort of analytical tracker on your website. Data is everything. If you're going to work on your website and you're going to spend some time or money making sure it loads fast and cleaning it up and optimizing it, basically you want to kind of see some data that really reinforces you're doing the right thing. So installing Google Analytics, reading their basic documentation. Don't get too deep into it, but just some basic tracking is good to go. There you'll see some of these terms such as retention, and you can go and look. And then what I think would be really cool if everyone did is figure out how you can schedule a custom report that gets sent to you every week. So on Sunday nights, I get a report from Google Analytics, and it has all of my basically reports for the week that has passed. So again, some action items you might consider. You probably won't get to write these all down, so I'll send you the slides, don't worry. But install your Google Analytics tracking code. Try and find where the retention metrics are, like bounce rate and time on page. Schedule the report so you don't have to remember to log in. You just get an email, Monday morning or something like that. Install an email sign-up form. So if you haven't already, a great way to retarget people is capture their email addresses when they come to your website. So a really quick way to do that is you can sign up for something called MailChimp, which has a freemium tier, and it allows you to embed a email grabber on your website. And again, it should really be underneath every blog post and on every page. And you really want to have what I call a lead magnet, so some kind of incentive. So, if you go to HubSpot, they're the king of that. In order to download one of their PDFs, you have to give your email. And the beauty of capturing an email is people go away and they bounce from your website. And no matter how fanatical they are as a prospect, a lot of them are going to forget about you. So by capturing an email, you can then push them into an automated email flow, which nowadays actually MailChimp also has. It's not included with their freemium product, but is definitely worth checking out. So you can capture the email, you can send them the lead magnet, perhaps it's some kind of informational article, and then 3 days later you can send them something else, a video. 3 days later, 3 weeks later, 3 months later, you can send them something else. And it can all be automated. And you can look at your MailChimp analytics and see who are the people who are watching all your videos and opening all your articles. And those are your hot leads, and those are the ones that you should spend the time to reach out to. If you don't have a blog already, it is time consuming, but just get some sort of blog up there. And then it doesn't have to be daily or even weekly, but at least once a month, put some valuable content out there that just provides value. And the goal again is to try and get people to sign up with the email, at least their first name and email. Then you can start personalizing your marketing, and a lot of it can be automated, of course, right? So just a quick refresh. So we talked about the website in terms of non-functional requirements, making sure it's fast and secure, etc. And we talked a little bit about retention and capturing email addresses so you can reach out to people again. So now we're going to talk about acquisition, which is how do you acquire traffic, and we'll get into the rest. Engagement, which is how do you engage people on your website. Virality, how do you encourage sharing of your content, and conversion and monetization a little bit later. So acquisition is often measured with the cost per acquisition. So you don't have to read this slide, you can read it later, but basically, how much does it cost to acquire a lead on average? And how much is the lifetime value on average of my customers? Those things have to match, right? So before we go and buy traffic for a client, my company does Facebook advertising and Google ads. We sit down with the client and we want to understand not just their business and services, which is relatively easy to learn if they already have a website or they have some kind of brochure or information, and they're very often very good at telling you about their services and products. But personas are a really good way to kind of build out a sort of poster of an average prospect, right? So again, I apologize for this being blurry. I think I have some other examples here. Oh, they're all pretty bad. But basically, it's just like a scratch board where you have an average prospect. So on average, this client was a female, 27, and she has certain needs, business needs, and certain frustrations, and certain features that she wants from the product, and a certain sort of skill set. So you can build out 3 or 4 personas, and that'll inform your marketing. Here's another one here. So little boxes for values and goals, demographics, problem statements, common objections. So again, your sales team can probably help you fill these out and refine them over time. This was the Office 365 personas. So you can see they don't just do one, they do a number of different ones and different skill sets and different industries and whatnot. So definitely Google how to create personas. Again, I can't recommend enough the HubSpot resource library. I think we'll just skip over this one. So that was just another persona. Let me just double check that we're still going live here. And anyway, I'll just keep recording. Actually, if you just give me 1 second here, it looks like there's some issue here. So let's just try.